this week.
Yeah,
It's on the
got it.
comic books. So I think there's a lot of trouble. I have to start off.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just stand. I'll get it.
I don't know, do we need to sit? Or?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do.
Mr. Lutz, you have like to talk to the governor briefly, and then if there's any photographs or presentation or anything, I can take those over.
Okay, we'll walk over there for the presentation.
Perfect.
Governor, yeah, I want you to be relaxed and just give me 5 minutes to just talk about my mission and what it is I'm doing and why I'm here, and ask for your time, and these families are here as well. And I don't know how much you know about Honor and Remember, but in 2005, December 29th, my son was killed in Iraq. And it brought me on a mission. It brought me on a very specific mission, and that was, how does America remember? How do we publicly remember sacrifice? What do we do as a nation to remember those that lost their lives and the families? And what I found was the military does a great job. Thank you for your service, by the way. And the veterans do a great job, but the American public has a short memory in many cases. And I was looking for something to embrace as a Gold Star dad that I could hold on to, that I could be proud of. Because after all, my son and all these sons died for a nation. They were selfless. They gave of themselves, and they decided to serve. Wonderful monuments that are out there, and memorials that are built. And I realized that many of those, most all of them, are built by veterans. And they're built in tribute to veterans. You know, the Vietnam Wall, now the recent World War II memorial, just wonderful, wonderful tributes. But they are built by those that understand, that those that get it. And I was still looking for that public symbol. And as I looked around and as I researched, and again, looking for something for me to embrace, I saw the POW flag flying everywhere. And especially flying at memorials. After my son, I would attend memorials and meet new Gold Star families. And I thought to myself, that's what we're missing. That's what the fallen need. The fallen need representation. That voice that can't speak for themselves. They should have a flag. They should have a symbol. And that is how the Honor and Remember flag came about. And this is the flag. I'll show you. You might not have seen this up close. This is the Honor and Remember flag. It was unveiled to the public on Memorial Day of 2008, officially. The white is a purity of that sacrifice because our men and women died out of a pure cause, on a pure mission. Each one of them saying to us, don't worry, I've got your back, and I'll be home. The Blue Star, we know the Blue Star families started back in World War I, when the Blue Star banner was hung on windows and doors of military families. The Gold Star, we understand, because that represents that life lost. The folded flag, universally, we know a folded flag recognizes that a life was lost and handed to that family at the memorial service. The flames above are an eternal reminder that we will never forget. And the words, honor and remember. We will always honor their sacrifice and remember them specifically by name. There's a bill in Congress right now to establish this officially as United States symbol of remembrance. It's been sitting in Congress for about a year now. A little over a year ago, I started to get calls from individual states. And they said to me, we heard about the flag. We want to fly it in our state for our families. We don't want to wait for Congress. And so one at a time, probably by January of this year, I had 15 states that were interested in flying this as an official symbol of their state. And I realized that I couldn't wait for states to call me. I needed to go out and spread this message. It was too important. And so I deployed myself on a 5-month mission to reach all 50 states, to reach legislators everywhere I could, to reach veterans organizations, patriotic Americans, and Gold Star families, and share the importance of what needed to happen. And this is the 36th state since I left on June the 7th that I've visited. And I've driven over 14,000 miles to get here. And I have many more states to go. 2014. But I will end this journey in Arlington Cemetery on Veterans Day, November the 11th. And I've had the honor and the privilege to meet so many of your peers, and as well as the adjutants and others in this state. And I will tell you, in the last 5 states, that every state has pledged that, yes, this is important to their state. And but it's more than just about this flag flying. It's about the heart of those that have sacrificed so much. And that is the importance of not just having this flag, but being able to touch the lives of individuals, the individual families that have sacrificed. Because I think that they're forgotten. And as I thought about this flag, and as I pondered how best could this make an impact in the healing process of these families, I thought, well, look at the generations past that were so unappreciated. Look at those wars and those conflicts earlier on, where soldiers were ashamed to come home. I mean, they had to fly in the dead of night and go through the shame of what those generations, our generations back then, the public, were doing, those militaries. And then I thought, how much less must the families have felt to those that didn't come home? Because even that was more, those sons that came home, there was no honor like they have today. There was no tribute. And this became important to all generations. Every family I know feels the same way about losing their loved one, regardless of the reasons. At the end of the day, they're still not coming home. And so the flag enabled me in the design to personalize it in a very special way. And that is why the families are here to join us, because we're going to honor 2 families today, with your help. I know that, did the other family come yet? They did not. So then we have the 2 families to honor, and to show that this flag is for all generations from the beginning of our country's history till now. We'll honor a Vietnam family and one from the current generation. Oh, excellent. All right. George Lutz. Nice to meet you, sir. Excellent. Well, sir, I think we should just go. I know that you're running out of time.
We do have a time constraint
So
here.
we're gonna move right on.
But,
We're going to move right on.
so,
If you want to move over to the flag area?
why not? Let's do the photograph. I'm sorry you're late. He had already explained the tribute of this.
Folded this way, because it mirrors this American flag that was handed at the memorial service to the family. And unlike the American flag, which is meant to stay folded forever, reverently and respectfully, this flag is meant to be unfolded and to be proudly displayed in tribute and in thanks for that sacrifice. And, would you mind reading this, sir?
Well, I can do it. If I can read. This honor remember flag is presented with eternal gratitude and respect in memory of Sergeant David Joseph Draculich. With this flag, we honor this patriot's unwavering dedication and remember their selfless sacrifice. By displaying this symbol collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully say thank you. Signed, George Lutz, founder. September 1, 2010. So we'll present them all. Or should we all pull in a little bit closer so that we can get a little better? Do you want me to kind of just... Here, well, let's see if we can put this on this side. So
You're smiling without teeth.
First Class William Leslie Moore. With this flag, we honor this patriot's unwavering dedication and remember their selfless sacrifice. By displaying this symbol collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully say thank you. Signed, George Lutz, founder, September 1st, 2010.
Squeeze
So
it.
we want to hold that, and you and I will kind of hold this together.
There you go.
Well, thank you. So this belongs to you, as does the flag.
Governor, would you mind adding your signature to my list of signatures?
What does the signature do?
Basically, it says that you agree with honor and remember, and if it ever comes through your state, in terms of legislation, you would be supporting.
Sure.
And I've got many of your.
You've been around. I met with Maurice this morning.
This is, I have been around, this is not,
Yes,
I have been around.
they met this morning at Starbucks.
He did mention that he was going to sponsor.
Oh, Senator Williams sent his regards.
Oh, did he?
His name, Donald from Virginia.
I'm certainly glad to see this happen. It's been 40 years since she's had any recognition.
Her son served in Vietnam.
Thank you. I believe his time has come. Thank you very much, sir.
You bet.
And I think we made it in your time frame.
Yes.
Just barely.
Please be seated. Aloha and welcome to the Honor and Remember ceremony in Hawaii. We're thrilled to welcome Mr. George Lutz, the founder and director of Honor and Remember, to Hawaii. His support of our troops is highlighted by the creation of the Honor and Remember flag. Honor and Remember is an organization founded on Memorial Day 2008 to promote a new national symbol honoring those who serve and remembering those who died in military service to America. Mr. Lutz is visiting all 50 state capitals to gain national awareness for the Honor and Remember flag and to present families of the fallen in each state with personalized flags. The Hawaii State Legislature this year adopted resolutions in support of the Honor and Remember flag and in support of Mr. Lutz's efforts. Today, we meet at the foot of the eternal flame, which burns endlessly as a tribute to all men and women from Hawaii who served in the Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marines, and Navy in all the major and minor conflicts in which the United States was engaged. Before proceeding any further, I'd like to recognize the families of Hawaii's Gold Star heroes who are with us today. Mrs. Brandy Williams, wife of United States Army Sergeant Eugene Williams, and their daughters Maya and Monica Williams. Please rise. David Brockstrom, father of United States Army First Lieutenant Jonathan P. Brockstrom. Representing the family of Lieutenant Commander Morgan Tulang is Uncle Dennis and cousin Debbie Tulang. Thank you all very much for being here with us today. A very special mahalo.
Thank you very much, Representative Takai, Governor Lingle, Congressman DeJu, Acting Mayor Caldwell, fellow flag officers, senators, veterans, friends, but especially our Gold Star families, Mr. George Lutz, Cariaga family, the whole family, Williams family, Bronster's family, and the Tulang family. Good afternoon and aloha. It's my distinct honor to be with you at this Honor and Remember ceremony. Our location here at the Eternal Flame is most appropriate for this ceremony because Hawaii's Eternal Flame behind me evokes the same representation of the Eternal Flame on the proposed Honor and Remember flag. We are also in the shadows of Punchbowl Crater, where thousands of Hawaii's veterans and families are interred at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. Yesterday, we marked the 65th anniversary of the end of World War II on board the deck of the USS Missouri. The war to end all wars resulted in the death of nearly 60 million people worldwide. A long-term peace leaders like General MacArthur and Admiral Nimitz had hoped for never materialized. World War II was soon followed by Korea, then Vietnam, the Gulf War, and currently our operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. And they required our troops to defend freedom and the American way of life time and time again with much sacrifice. Hawaii plays a role in all of these conflicts and sent more men to serve in Korea and Vietnam on a per capita basis than any other state or territory. Just across the street, on the Capitol grounds, are the names of more than 700 Hawaii service members etched on the Korean and Vietnam memorials in testimony to those that fell. For those that survived, Hawaii was the first American soil most Korean and Vietnam veterans set foot upon on the way back to the mainland. In 1973, all of the American prisoners of war were met by cheering crowds at Hickam Air Force Base following their release from the infamous Hanoi Hilton. Honolulu is now home to Carol Hickerson, whose husband Jim, a naval aviator, was shot down over North Vietnam in 1966. Carol Hickerson, with a background in art, created the design of the now familiar prisoner of war and missing in action flag that is proudly flown across our nation to remind Americans that we still have missing service members and one soldier in captivity. The POW MIA flag was the first flag our country adopted to pay tribute to specific group of service personnel and their families. The Honor and Remember flag will be the second. What a privilege it is for us to be part of the initial effort to formally adopt this new flag as a symbol of gratitude for our Gold Star families and the sacrifice made by our brave men and women in uniform. Sometimes the road to completion can be long and arduous. It took nearly 2 decades from the time the POW MIA flag was proposed to the time it was finally adopted by Congress. However, with the help of many dedicated people here today and across our nation, I firmly believe that the Honor and Remember flag will receive formal national recognition much sooner. Today's ceremony brings us one step closer to making that goal a reality. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for your continued support of our troops serving in harm's way and their families. Mahalo.
I am humbled. I am humbled to be here. It's been an amazing journey that I'll share, but I have to apologize first because I want to tell you all that this is an emotional journey. And I very rarely can ever get through this without the emotion of which brought me to this moment. So I ask your humble forgiveness as you weather through this with me just a little bit. But I've come to explain why it's so important, why I'm here, and why this mission means so much to me. On December 29th, 2005, I heard that knock on the door that no parent ever expected to hear. When those two uniformed soldiers came to the door with those words, "We regret to inform you." The word devastation isn't big enough, I will tell you, because there isn't a word that can describe the kinds of emotion that you go through when you feel as if your life is over. Not just your son's life, but you begin to wonder if your life has any purpose. And what are you going to do? And what emotions are you going to go through? And what processes will you feel? But God took me on a different turn. Because what I did was I began to look at memories. I began to search the house for any kind of memory that I could of my son, because I knew that there would be no new memories. He would never walk through that door again. He would never call me on the phone, and I would never hear his voice. And I wanted to grab a hold of any memory that I could that would give me one more day of his life. And so I looked for photographs and videos and emails, and even a scrap of paper with his handwriting and a grocery list became important to me. Anything that would connect me to him one more day. But you can only open so many drawers and so many closets. And my son had been married, had 2 children, and he had a life of his own. And I thought to myself, well, surely his friends and those he worked with will have stories and pictures that they can share with me. Again, I wanted to hold on to whatever I could of his life. And that came to an end as well, because you can only find so many people. And then I realized that he served in the United States Army, and he trained with his comrades. And I wanted to hear what they had to say. Were they proud of him? How did he do his job? What kind of a day did he have? What did he say that morning? What did he have for breakfast? Anything that I could hold on to that would give me one more day of life to remember him. But even that came to an end. And I realized that he died for his country. I realized that he could have stayed home. He could have gotten a job. He could have raised his 2 children. He didn't have to selflessly volunteer to fight for someone else's freedom, but he did. And I wanted to know how this country remembered that. I wanted to know how publicly we as a nation remembered sacrifice, because I wanted to embrace it. You know, as a father, you want to be proud of your kids, and you want to know that what they're doing is the right thing. And I wanted to embrace something to be proud of. And I started to attend the funerals of other families after my son and speak to them. And as I met them, I began to meet families from the past generations, from Korea, from World War II, from Vietnam, from the Gulf War. Many families who had experienced loss. And the 2 things that I would hear over and over from these families without any hesitation was, please don't let this have been in vain. And please don't let them be forgotten. Over and over. And as I looked around for that symbol, for that emblem, for something to embrace publicly, what I found were memorials and monuments that were built by veterans, for veterans. And I looked at the beautiful statues and monuments that were put together in Washington, D.C. and in all of the places that I've been since. And I found that these were built by donations from veterans. And I thought, what about the public? What do they have? And I would see the yellow ribbons everywhere and the words, support our troops. And I thought to myself, you know, my son was a troop once, but that bumper sticker doesn't apply to him anymore. So where is the recognition for our fallen? And as I traveled to these other families' funerals, I would see the wonderful POW flag, General, that you mentioned earlier. What a testament to those that needed to be remembered, to those that still were out there and needed to be brought home. What a testament that the United States government, albeit 18 years, still adopted a symbol, a military symbol, that would fly publicly in remembrance of those heroes. And my light bulb came on, and I thought, the fallen need a flag. Gold star over blue star. Again,
Thank you, George. And by the way, I really like that aloha shirt you're wearing. I would now like to invite Governor Linda Lingo for her remarks and for the presentation of the state proclamation. Governor.
Thank you very much, Representative Takai, and thank you for the Medal of Honor ceremony that we've had each year in the state capitol, and all your work on that as well. Congressman Dejoux, Major General Lee, Acting Mayor Caldwell, Admiral Smith, and all the other officers who are here, and especially to our guests, again, George Lutz and the Gold Star families. There are no words, Mr. Lutz, that can make up for your own personal loss of your son, Tony. But you've taken a real tragedy and turned it into something good for the whole country. And I'm certain that your son would be very proud of what you've done in his memory and in his honor. I admire very, very much your tenacity and your spirit, because to move the government is not easy to do, as we've heard with the POW MIA flag and in so many other instances. I was reading about George Lutz and how he's traveling the country in an RV and going from state to state. And as he said, as he met with the families, they only wanted two simple things. They wanted to make certain that their loved one hadn't died in vain, and that indeed the nation would never forget them. You think about the first request that they made about not dying in vain. For all of us who enjoy freedom every day, just to get up and leave our house if we feel like it, or not leave if we feel like it, to read any book that we want, to practice any religion that we want. All of those things are what these heroes give to us. It's what they sacrificed their life for. All the things that too many take for granted. So for me, we can easily answer that they certainly did not die in vain, and that our country and the values of our country are worth fighting for and sacrificing for. I personally will never forget your son, the sons of those who are here, the family of those who are here, because I have to tell you, one of the worst parts of my job as governor has been, for the first time in my life, to go with General Lee to households in Lahaina, or here, or visit with the Inouye family and with Dason's grandmother, and sit in the home where he lived. And to get to know Alan Ho and Nainoa's memory and celebrate a life well lived and ended too soon. Or to have Jonathan Bronstrom's father and son both in my office to recognize the sacrifices. So for me, even if I wanted to forget, I can't forget. But for so many Americans, they don't have that opportunity, that obligation, that privilege all rolled into one to go to the families, to thank them in person for their sacrifice, to let them know, in fact, that their loved one did not die in vain. And they shouldn't forget, you're right, George, to do what you're doing, to make certain that people don't forget. These brave Americans fought for what they believed in and for what we all believe in, to ensure that Americans can be secure from terrorism, from a way of life that's lived by too many others in parts of the world. And we should never forget their sacrifice. The idea of honor and remember, I think, is a fitting tribute for all the servicemen and women. And I especially would like to address the families, the ohana of the service members who truly carry a heavy burden and sacrifice when their loved ones are deployed. They are left behind to carry on the daily duties of raising children and paying bills and of running the household. Just a couple of hours ago, I participated in a change of command ceremony out at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard, where Admiral Select Greg Thomas was relinquishing command to Captain Brian Osgood. And Captain Thomas, as is always the case in a change of command, he gave a wonderful set of remarks. He thanked all the people at the shipyard for their hard work. But it wasn't until he started to talk about the families of the soldiers, the sailors, the airmen, the Marines, and the Coast Guardsmen. It wasn't until that point in the speech, I think, that it really hit home for all of us who were listening. Captain Thomas shared a personal story, which in the scheme of the world doesn't seem like much, but in the life of a family, well, I'll let you judge for yourself. What he said was that when a member of our military is going to be deployed, they have a choice to make. They can either try to get their orders changed, or they can move their family, or they can go to the bachelor's quarters at their next posting and leave their family behind. And he shared a personal experience. He said, I can remember in my own family, the day my daughter came home and she learned that she had just been elected the vice president of her 8th grade class. And that was the day I got word that I had to move my family to Guam, that we were being transferred. And I had to decide, do I take my family with me? Do I leave my family behind? And they did go on to Guam as a family. And it's certainly not in any way comparable to the loss of a child, having to uproot them. But in fact, this is what the military members in our nation do every single day, day in and day out. And those families and their soldiers or their sailors, they are willing every single day of their life to risk their lives for us. So it wasn't just that they gave their life, it's that they were willing to every single day that they were in the service. I hope that the families here today can find solace from each other and from other families in the same situation, the way George Lutz did as he travels around the country. President Obama's speech on Tuesday that the United States Combat Forces mission in Iraq was coming to an end does not mean we can simply move on as a nation. We must continue to remind all Americans to honor our fallen soldiers. We still have troops, tens of thousands of troops in harm's way, and we should remember every day their willingness to give their lives. Honoring fallen soldiers is an integral part of Hawaii, and our military ohana, whether born here or stationed here in the islands, have made tremendous sacrifices for us. The people of Hawaii appreciate them and are proud to support our troops and their families. I'm glad that George Lutz is here in our state among us, that he is bringing his message to the people of Hawaii via the media, by showing up at large sporting events, and by attending Kawaihau Church. Mahalo to you, George Lutz, for what you're doing in honor of your son, Tony, and thank you to all of the Gold Star families who are here today. We do have an official proclamation, which I am not going to read the entire proclamation because you've heard many of the details of it. But I will say, and just read the conclusion of the proclamation, which is signed by myself, as well as Lieutenant Governor Duke Iona. And it says, while Mr. George Lutz is in Hawaii, he will participate in a special flag presentation ceremony at the state capitol, across the state capitol at the Eternal Flame, along with other Hawaii Gold Star families. In addition, various military leaders and Hawaii Medal of Honor families and the media will be invited to attend. Therefore, I, Linda Lingle, Governor, and on behalf of Duke Iona, Lieutenant Governor, do hereby proclaim September 3rd, 2010, as Honor and Remember Day in Hawaii, in deep respect for all patriots who have given their lives in support of this nation. And Mr. Lutz, if you'll join me, I'll hand the proclamation to you.
Good afternoon and aloha. Distinguished guests, and then the honored guest, the families of those who have lost loved ones who are here today. We're humbled to be in your presence. Your family members died too soon, and you have to live with that for the rest of your lives. We want to let you know that we share in your sorrow, can never, ever, ever really understand what you're feeling. But a little bit of what we're doing here today will help. You know, Abraham Lincoln, I think one of the greatest presidents in the history of our country, wrote the Gettysburg Address. I think the greatest speech ever delivered by any American, and probably one of the greatest speeches ever given by anyone who's ever lived on this planet. Talks about the last full measure of their devotion for those who gave their life in the Civil War. And he goes on to talk about whatever is said at Gettysburg that day by him or anyone else will be little remembered. But what will be remembered is those who still live, who continue to remember those who sacrificed. And it is us, the living, who celebrate life and the freedoms that were given by the men and women who have been putting their life on the line for us for over 230 years in the greatest country in the world and under the greatest form of democracy, our Constitution, yet written. And it is a humbling experience for us to be able to live in that experiment called American democracy. And we get to live under it because of those sacrifices. Now, Mr. Lutz, I read the letter that you wrote, I think to everyone, really, that's you had published. And with it, there's a picture of your son. It's hard to see it here. But he's a young man, looking very confident with a smile on his face, but totally prepared for war. And I think he speaks for all sons and daughters who have gone off to war, believing that they're doing the right thing. And to think at such a young age, they took on such responsibility. And Mr. Lutz, in this letter that he wrote, he said, there was nothing anyone could have done to more fully protect him. War breeds casualties, and many thousands of moms and dads have given their children for freedom's cause. In fact, one of the last words Tony Lutz wrote to his father was, quote, "Dad, don't worry. God is literally my shield," end quote. He knew where he would spend eternity and lived that knowledge every day. God had a purpose for Tony's life and took him that day. Nothing could have prevented it. But we can celebrate his life and all the lives of those who have sacrificed for all of us by remembering those through this flag. And so I do have a proclamation also, much like that of Governor Lingle. And it ends with, "Now therefore, I, Kirk Caldwell, acting mayor of the city and county of Honolulu, do hereby proclaim September 3rd, 2010, to be Honor and Remember Day." And Mr. Lutz, if you could come up and receive the proclamation on behalf of all the people of city and Honolulu. It's given by them to you and all the families who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
You know by now is more than a piece of cloth. It's more than stitching in fabric pulled together to be caught by the wind. It represents individual lives lost for this country, individual families whose loved ones will never walk through their door, will never sit at their table again for the rest of their lives. And it is important that we realize that as Americans, that these are individuals needing to be remembered. Because I will tell you as a Gold Star father that
This Honor and Remember flag is presented with eternal gratitude and respect in memory of Sergeant Eugene Williams. With this flag, we honor this patriot's unwavering dedication and remember their selfless sacrifice. By displaying this symbol collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully say, thank you.
This Honor and Remember flag is presented with eternal gratitude and respect in memory of Sergeant Dason Cariaga. With this flag, we honor the Patriots' unwavering dedication and remember their selfless sacrifice. By displaying this symbol collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully say, thank you, thank you, thank you.